G'day guys, I was just setting up for a battle report that I'm planning to record this week when the new 8-bound datasheet for 10th edition appeared in my inbox. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether or not it's legitimate, but it is very exciting and very interesting. So what I want to do is share it with you guys, and then we can have a conversation in the comments section below on whether or not we think this is legitimate, or whether or not we think somebody out there has just photoshopped this and is wish listing. So with that being said, let's just jump straight into the video.
Look for the blood god.
Alrighty guys, so I'm going to pull the data sheet up on my left here so that you can read along as we go, but basically you've got a 9-inch move, 5-inch, toughness 5, save of 3+, 3 wounds, 6+ leadership, and an OC of 1. So based on its pure profile, there's nothing particularly exciting there. Its movement characteristic is in line with what we're familiar with, as is its toughness, as is its, save characteristic, etc. However, interestingly, it's only got an objective control of 1, which means that these small units of elite infantry are going to get overpowered quite easily on objectives. But let's have a look at the more interesting part, which is its weaponry. So down in the weapons section, we can see that it's got 3 options. Now, it doesn't list what they are available to each model, but we assume that it's the same as what we currently have, where you get, 2 eviscerators on a model on a normal 8-bound, and then your sergeant can either have the heavy chain glaive or the lacerators. Interestingly, the 8-bound eviscerators are a melee weapon with only 5 attacks each, whereas currently you get about 7. They're weapon skill 3, they're only strength 6, currently they strike at strength 7. AP 2 and 2 damage, so we've lost some AP as well. So we've lost quite a bit of power just on that. However, they have the sustain hits 1 and twin linked ability. Now this seems plausible to me given that we've seen that like aggressors with their 2 power fists are going to have twin linked power fists. So it makes sense that a model that would have 2 eviscerators, instead of gaining additional attacks from those, they're going to be gaining twin linked. But what that means is that these 8-bound are going to be re-rolling all wound rolls in melee, which is going to make them significantly more scary than what they currently are, in my opinion. So that's really exciting. Then we've got the heavy chain glaive, which has 10 attacks. So that's a crazily high number of attacks. However, it's not twin linked, it doesn't have sustained hits. And it's got weapon skill 3+, strength 6, AP 1 damage. So this would be really good at going in and clearing out a whole bunch of, horde or anything like that. However, I think the reroll wounds is probably going to be better from the other weapons. And then the final weapon that we have is the lacerators, which are currently the go-to. They're currently the #1 thing that people like. They're the #1 thing people rate and very popular. And I think that's going to remain the same. So if you model your 8-bound with lacerators based on this datasheet, if it's true, they're going to be very good. So they got twin linked, just like the eviscerators. They don't contain the sustained hits rule though, so you're not going to get those exploding 6s in melee. You're getting 6 attacks, so 1 more, and I guess that's because it's on the sergeant. He's got 3+ weapon skill, strength 6, AP 2, and flat 3 damage. So slight decrease in the strength and AP characteristics than what we currently have, but we're being granted reroll wounds, so that really does bring it back up and makes it a really scary thing, especially in 10th edition where everything's going to have increased toughness. Being able to go, cool, you're a Custodes, you're toughness 7, well I'm only strength 6, that sort of sucks. However, I'm going to be going in and I'm going to be re-rolling all of those wound rolls, which is really, really exciting. But that's not the best part of the data sheet. So the really exciting part are the abilities. So we've got Scouts 9 inches, which based on the new 10th edition rules, that basically means you're going to be able to make a 9-inch move before the start of the first battle round, and you can't end that move within 9 inches of enemy models or enemy deployment zone. But that's going to be really, really powerful, and basically it looks like they're rolling the Lord Invocatus's ability into the 8-bound, which is not what I expected at all. And if it's true, having 3 units of 8-bound in your army and you're not needing Lord Invocatus, just being able to go, cool, they all scout up, that's so good. That's so powerful. And the next ability that they have is Blessings of Khorne from their faction, and then they have Blood Scent. If this unit's in strategic reserves, it can be set up as if the battle round was 1 higher than it currently is, regardless of any mission rules. Note this means the unit can be set up on the battlefield during the first battle round. So this is, I think, word for word, exactly the same as the current rule that they have, which is basically going to allow you to put them in strategic reserves, come on from a table edge turn 1, Very powerful. That being said, when you've got a scout move and you're able to do that, I don't think you're ever going to really use this. So the scout move without needing Lord Invocatus means you're going to have Angron hiding behind a ruin somewhere. You're going to have your 8-bound going up, creating that first wave. Really powerful, really scary. And then what else have we got on this data sheet? We've got Fearsome. While enemy unit is within 9 inches of this unit, each time that unit takes a battle shock test, subtract 1 from that test. Okay, so now we're looking at making people's units fail their battle shock, which is going to really help out with these guys because they're only OC1. So if you have a unit of 5 or 6 of them, being OC1 means that it's going to be very easy for your opponent to take objectives from you. So you're going to need to be pushing those battle shock tests. And then last but not least, we have the invulnerable save of 5+. What keywords have they got? Infantry, Demonkin, Chaos, and Khorne. Interesting that they've got the Demonkin keyword. I wonder what that's going to involve, whether or not it's going to be this. It might be a stratagem in the World Eaters Codex that you can only use on Demonkin. So things like your 8-bound, your Exalted 8-bound, but not on Berserkers. Perhaps, something like that. Chaos and Khorne, I guess they're faction keywords. And no, faction keyword is World Eaters, sorry. So yeah, I'm not sure what the Chaos and the Khorne do. Maybe there's strats for those, or maybe they're just future-proofing it so that if they do bring out some strats later on, they're going to be, relevant. So that's what the data sheet is. Now let's talk about whether or not I think it's legit. So this just popped up in my Discord inbox and went from somebody I'd never even heard of before. It was just a message. And when I tried to respond to them, they haven't responded yet. Granted, I've just literally received it minutes ago and decided I'm going to do a video on it anyway, because regardless of whether it's legitimate or fake, it's interesting nonetheless. It seems to follow the same format as the other data sheets. It's got the Scout's ability, which I think we've seen on Gene Stealers before, so that is interesting. It's sort of hard to say. I'll let you guys, have it out in the comments below on whether or not you think this is legitimate. I'm hesitant because we've already received our World Eaters faction focus, so I feel like if there was going to be more data sheets coming out in the same format as those faction focus data sheets, I feel like we would have seen them, like they would have included it in the faction focus. So personally, I mean, if I had to put my money on it, I'd probably say this is somebody having fun with Photoshop. But I don't know. It's hard to say for sure, and it seems pretty reasonable. Like, it seems relatively in line with what we've seen, decreases in strength, decreases in AP, no significant profile changes. I guess it seems kind of tame. Like, if this was the case, I don't think this is a problem. The Scouts is interesting. That's going to make them very, very powerful. And it I don't know if it makes sense for them to have Scouts built into their data sheet. You'd think that the current system where you need Lord Invocatus to do that, you'd think that maybe he would have it would be on Lord Invocatus's data sheet that you could pick 2 units within range and they gain Scouts 9-inch. That's how I would have imagined it working, instead of baking it into their data sheet, because then you can sort of have your cake and eat it too, and that seems pretty powerful to me. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Do you think this is overpowered? Do you think this is broken? Do you think this is going to be a huge problem with 8-bound being able to scout move like that? Or do you think this is relatively tame? And then further to that, do you think this is legitimate, or do you think somebody's just sending this shit to me as a troll to see whether or not I'd make a video out of it? Because, we all know that I can't help myself. When I see something interesting, I want to talk about it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thanks for tuning in, as always. And keep your eye out, because this battle report that I'm setting up now, we're hoping to record that this week, should be out by next weekend. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got Adrian Strath from Iron Wolf Gaming. He's coming over. He's the one who painted my Angron. And we're going to do Black Legion versus World Eaters. And it's going to be a little bit of a taste of my own medicine, because he's going to be running the Black Legion with Abaddon, the Terminators with the Black Rune, all of the tricks that I've been using to dominate tabletops across the country. He's going to be wielding that army. And I'm going to be playing around with my World Eaters. This will probably be the last 9th edition battle report that I do. And I thought, what better way to say goodbye to the edition than with my 2 loves. The list I've been playing the entire edition versus the list that is, my faction from my childhood that I've always wanted to play. So we're going to have that showdown. It's going to be a ton of fun. And yeah, I also just wanted to say a real quick thank you to my Patreon supporters who've been able to provide me what I need in order to upgrade my setup. So I've got new microphones, I've got new camera equipment, and I'm continually reinvesting any support that you guys give me into improving the quality and frequency of this content. So a huge thank you to everybody who shows your support on Patreon, and those who go over to my website, blogforthebloodgod.com, pick up some apparel like these t-shirts, the neoprene objective markers that we'll be using in the battle reports, and also those who go to Dice Baron and pick up the new new dice that I've got. Let's get a top down of those dice. So these are some really gorgeous looking dice. They roll amazingly, they feel good, and they're fully bespoke and custom. So not sure how well that's going to show up on the camera there, but there are square edges. They're two-toned inlay, so you can see that there's gold edges on them, and then white numbers on them. And they're also got a matte finish, which gives them a really unique feel and a real unique look in the way that they're not gloss and shiny. They're these matte dice, which I designed that for. I've requested that for battle report purposes, so that they don't, glare on the camera there. But they look awesome, and I'm really happy with them. And you can pick them up at baronofdice.com. I believe is the name of his website. I'll put links and shit in the description below. You can pick them up there, or if you want to, you can sign up to my Patreon, and I'm going to be doing giveaways of dice. And also, I'm looking into shuffling the way that the Patreon tiers work, so that when you sign up to a certain tier, you get a set of dice. And if you don't sign up to one of the higher tiers, you'll get a set of dice and a set of objective markers. So I'm looking at reshuffling the way that that works. But head over to my website if you want more information. Head over to Patreon, show your support. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Look for the Blood God.
The Warhammer community suffers from some of the most prohibitively expensive essentials in the world, especially Australian content creators. Every single day, Dean wants to create content, but he can't. Suffering from old, worn-out brushes, expensive model kits, and costly software and equipment he can't endure much longer. Just look at this dirty paint water. Would you drink this? Would you let your child? Even a small monthly donation can help provide Dean with clean paint water, basic tools for survival, and access to life-saving information and education. So please, follow the links in the description below and find out how you can sponsor Dean today and end the suffering. Suffering that is cruel, unsustainable, and your fault.